fancies it as well. Is it going to be Klaassen also? Kudus to Cohen!
A generational hybrid of Essien and Saka, or African football's first attempt to produce a world-class false nine that will ultimately end in failure. Just how good is Mohammed Kudus?
Has to be precision in the passing.
After Kudus' bombastic displays at the World Cup, it's no surprise that his dribbling is the highlight of his game. In terms of the style, it's a hybrid of Fred, McGinn and Saka in the way that he carries the ball powerfully down the right or inside right channels. He's got fantastic agility and very tight, close control with that left foot. When he drags it down the line, especially closer to goal in the final third, he can generate acceleration and leave fullbacks for dead, but his long-range sprinting down the line is not as good as a Saka or a Gareth Bale, and thus he becomes more predictable on the flank, and I don't see that role as his long-term position. When he's running through central midfield areas, he looks more comfortable, he's eating up yards for fun, and most midfielders will struggle to keep up with his pace. He's got a powerful burst, but it's a controlled burst. This isn't a headless chicken, and that makes his runs feel more destructive and incisive. In terms of skills, he's got a good 360 in his locker, loves flicking the ball over incoming challenges, but the most impressive feature is the stocky low centre of gravity, which allows him to take the ball and protect the ball under serious pressure. This is particularly prevalent when he's marked tightly by centre-backs. He's even, protected the ball when the likes of Van Dijk are trying to put pressure on him, or aggressive fullbacks near the touchline. And this ability to withstand pressure gives him extra time to find a pass, and it's very difficult to dislodge him off the ball and intercept him before he's made that pass. In terms of his dribbling closer to goal, he obviously tries to work an angle to get a shot off his left foot, a bit reminiscent of Antony at United, so I have concerns that he's pretty one-footed. He looks uncomfortable when he's shifting onto his right, and at times the hesitancy in doing so allows defenders to get back at him in central areas.
This is Kudus. Broke favourably for him.
Kudus started this season as a centre-forward, and that explains why he's got a higher goal threat than a winger like Saka, although recently he's been moved back to the right wing. Historically, he's been very unfortunate with injury, so this is a bit of a breakout season for him in terms of regular appearances, as well as becoming a regular goal threat. So it's difficult to say whether he will become a consistent goal getter, but technically, this is a player who's got a very powerful left foot. He's got this wonderful innate ability of setting the ball up for his body to meet it almost side on and drive the finesse with a lot of power. His lace shots are decent, but I wouldn't say he's technically the most complete ball striker. But a bit like a Saka, we're witnessing an improvement in terms of the refinement of his striking technique. Right foot goals are pretty sparse, so if he wants to stay as a striker, not just as Ajax or in bigger sides, he really needs to develop that weak foot, as at the moment it looks like he's just reluctantly swinging with it and hoping for the best. Inside the box, very sharp reactions, and because of his size, he's nimble, and then combine that with his courage, he doesn't hesitate to be the first to the ball, so that means he can score some pretty poacher-like goals inside the box, even amongst strong centre-backs.
By Kudus, he'll get it back.
Now there's two ways to look at Kudus' numbers in terms of link-up play. For a striker, drops quite deep, touches it quite often, and quite influential in bringing others into play, acting as a focal point for the attack to build from. For a winger, his pass volume seems quite low, but the stats are skewed by the fact that he's played in both of these positions. Generally, when he is deployed out wide, you're seeing him ranging from 28 to 36 passes a game, which falls more into the playmaker category. Now, most importantly, it's his pass accuracy, which confirms that Kudus has an elite football brain when it comes to ball retention. Very press resistant, always seems to find a way out and locate a teammate. We touched upon it in the dribbling section, but his blend of stockiness and nimbleness allows him to weave in and out of traffic amidst the chaos and protect the ball from aggressive intrusions. He then has a variety of layoff techniques, whether it's flicks, chest, outside of the foot. He concocts a variety of ways to release that ball to a supporting teammate. It's for this reason that I'd love to see him in a more deeper central role rather than up front. So an advanced 8 or a Mazzala role could suit him when he makes that move to a bigger club, similar to where Harvey Elliott plays for Liverpool. From there, he could act as a secondary target man, but also influence the possession control for his side, as it'd be a nightmare to try and win the ball off.
Ajax heeft nog altijd de bal. Kudus.
Kudus' assist numbers are pretty poor. In fairness, he has been deployed as a striker in a large number of games, but He is more of a false 9 in terms of profile, and from the eye test looks like a player who can spot a pass, so it's surprising to see that the numbers are so low. Judging on the eye test, we see a player who has his head up when running with the ball, and he can generally execute a well-weighted ball, hence his high accuracy rate for through balls. So that gives me some hope that in a stronger side with better runners off the ball, rather than a Tadic for example, his assist numbers would increase, a bit like how Trossard's assisting numbers were quite poor, but from the eye test it looked quite good, and it's already looking quite good in this Arsenal lineup. Does Kudus give me the Odegaard feel in terms of creativity brain? No, but he can definitely open up sides with his destructive running ability and feed balls through. So in terms of pre-assists, I definitely see some potential here. At the moment, I feel like he's not in the right setup and his teammates aren't really on the same wavelength or aggressive enough in their runs to benefit from his vision.
Kudus, back post is...
Kudus' crossing is not really anything to write home about. In terms of his inverted crosses, they're quite loopy. They feel more like long balls rather than driven in menacing balls with whip. From the left, they feel a little bit better. He seems to be clipping them nicely with the instep to the far post. But again, it's decent. It's not world-beating. This ties into my overall feeling that his long-term game is not really well suited to being a wide player. He doesn't have that natural feel for hitting good crosses time and time again. He can at times try to use his weaker foot to execute crosses, but again, rather weak attempts rarely beat the first man clean, which adds to the overall notion he's a pretty one-dimensional threat from wide areas.
Kudus. Geen kopkans, Alvarez.
Kudus loves a long pass, and you can see statistically all across the board it showcases a player who does like to progress the game over long distances. Again, illustrating why we think he has a future in midfield. What I would say is that the quality of his long pass, whilst it generally finds the target, doesn't at the moment strike me as particularly elite. At times we see overhit passes, failure to anticipate interceptions, and not really passing into the space for a teammate to run onto, but forcing them to check their stride. When he does get it right, he can execute some difficult long balls, but overall an area which is still a little bit raw, in need of development if it's to be a trusted component in the bigger leagues under more demanding managers.
Kudus.
Tadic addressing it, Tadic delivering it. Class and connect.
Kudus' aerial stats make for some concerning reading. How can a player whose heading is statistically that poor be a viable centre forward in much tougher physical leagues? It also explains why he's been moved back to the wing, as he wasn't converting enough chances that came his way inside the box in the air. You could argue as a false 9, you're more of a facilitator, and as long as you're providing for others, your heading is irrelevant, but I don't think that's true. Remember Messi's header against the giants of Rio or Vidic, Benzema's ability to hurt teams in the air, or even Bobby Firmino. Okay, none of these guys are Didier Drogba, but it's still an essential component for anyone looking to play up front at the highest level, and it's a key source of goals, especially in these bigger, tighter games. What I would say is that Kudus has a solid spring on him, but it's his timing of the header which is the bigger issue, and how he redirects his headers. They don't seem to have the requisite precision. From general goal kicks, he seems willing enough to compete, and he can get flick-ons, but would he be able to do that against top-class centre-backs who are superior to him in stature on a consistent enough basis? It seems doubtful to me. Defensively, Kudus is a live wire. He's someone who, when he's up front for Ajax in particular, he's leading their press very well, and he unsettles centre-backs with his speed across the ground. He's also quite intelligent in terms of knowing how to curve his runs or do a fake press in order to force a passing option where he wants it to go. And he's very tenacious, so he gets stuck in with the challenge, and he's got the discipline to track runs. In terms of his tackling, he does have this tendency that when he's dribbling and he overruns with the ball slightly, he can slide into a challenge just out of instinct, and I can see that leading to red cards in the future. So definitely something that he needs to control, but all in all, a pretty balanced player who'll definitely work hard.
Winners already today, so it's over to the champions.
Tactically, Kudus has played as a striker early in the season in Ajax's 4-3-3, I'm not a huge fan of this Ajax side, and their front three doesn't really impress me in terms of elite dynamism and tactical quality. I prefer it more when Tadic has gone central, which makes more sense because you've got two more quicker players in the wide areas, and results have picked up, but as we can see in Europe, Bergwijn, Kudus and Tadic, they haven't really hurt teams enough at the higher level. So what I'm more interested in is what Kudus' future role could be and what types of sides he could fit in and where. At Liverpool, I could see him forming part of a midfield three, performing Elliott's role as a right centre mid. For United, I could see him at times rotating with Antony on the right flank. Again, I don't really think that's ideal, or being deployed where Weghorst is, but more of a three-man midfield, so either as the LCM or the RCM, giving United a three-man midfield. Or even if United went narrower into a diamond formation and they pushed Bruno into 10 and Rashford up front as part of a 2, I could see him playing a left-sided midfielder in a diamond. For Barca, similarly, I could see him in that midfield as a LCM. So if Gavi comes inside, Kudus can go around the outside and link up with Balde. Or if they do get in a proper left winger, Pedri plays on the left-hand side and he can compete with Gavi in the right-sided midfield slot, or even fill in for Lewandowski up front if he needs a rest. Chelsea, I could only see that working if Felix doesn't stay and if they return to a three-man midfield, i.e. a 3-5-2 or a 4-3-3. But generally, I think long-term in terms of tactics, I see him more as a Di Maria under Ancelotti type of position. In conclusion, Kudus is a player who represents a gamble, as he doesn't really have a defined world-class tactical role at this stage of his career, so he remains a work in progress. The positive is that he remains mouldable, but it will take a manager with vision to refine his game, reshape it tactically, to turn him into an impactful player at the highest level. Do I see him as a world-class number 9 or a right winger? Not really. Do I think he could have a higher ceiling in a more central role, such as a mezzala? Yes, I do think that is where there's more possibilities in terms of how he can impact games at a higher standard. Anyway guys, hope you enjoyed the video. Please like, share and subscribe, and see you guys again next time. Bye.
Spare for Guardiola, joy for Mourinho.